Hello, hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things home and healing. And today is just me. We don't have a guest, but we're going to talk about some fun stuff. So it's springtime, and one of the things we're going to talk about today is spring cleaning. And spring cleaning isn't just physically cleaning. We're going to talk about cleaning internally and etherically. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So we'll start with the basics of spring cleaning. So this is kind of interesting. So there's been a lot of memes going around that say that the actual first day of the year is April 1st, which in some ways makes a lot of sense because like September is 9. September is not 9. November's 11. Oh, what the hell's wrong with me? November is 10. December is 12. October is 10. Forget it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But there is this really cool urge to clean because winter's over and we're looking for new bulbs in the ground. The grass is green. I mean, I live in California and the flowers are in bloom and our grass is as green as it's going to get. I mean, some of you that live on the East Coast or the Midwest, or, if you live in Europe, other places, you guys have really green grass. I went to Ireland and to England and I just was blown away by the green. I've never seen green like that before. Now it rains a lot, so that's why, but it's so beautiful. But right now, everything's in bloom and it's just so pretty. In a couple months, everything will be brown. And for those of you who get snow, you're like beginning to get the spring weather and, getting rid of the parkas. And, it's just, there's this rebirth. My cats, oh my gosh, it's so funny. So there's this feeling in the air. There's a smell in the air of fresh. And my cats go nuts when it starts getting spring. Like they don't want to come in, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. I'm like, I get it, but there's just this great pull to be outside. And we want to clean out the inside. And it's really important to do that purging and do that cleaning. And sometimes it can be intimidating. So I've got a few tips for you. So the easiest one, maybe kind of fun one too. Hire somebody. You know what? Sometimes if you're feeling stuck, just hire somebody to come and clean it. Because when it gets done, you're going to feel so fresh. You're going to feel so much better. And you didn't have to do it. Because when you're crazy busy or you're just plain feeling stuck, you're moving the energy around in the house by cleaning it. Maybe you've got a friend who just loves cleaning. There's always that one person, right? Cleaning's fun. Who's the Monica in your life from Friends, right? So, have them over, make a pizza, have dinner for them, whatever, and then clean together. It can be fun. I've done that. I've had my sister come over and say, okay, Teresa, we're going to clean. I need, and we've gone through stuff. We've gone through every cabinet and thrown stuff away and purged stuff. And you make it fun because you joke about, instead of those memories being heavy. Oh, look, remember, da, 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 da. When you're by yourself, sometimes those memories can be really heavy. But if you've got somebody there with you, you can have fun with it. And it does help to have another person there. That's the next step. If you want to hire an organizer, that can be really helpful because they're not attached to anything. We get attached to stuff. And sometimes we're just attached to it, because it's always been there. Well, that lives on top of the refrigerator. Why? Well, because it's been there for the last 10 years. Why is it there? Well, I didn't know what to do with it to begin with, so I put it there. Okay. You know, but these are the things that happen. And somebody gives you something and you find a place for it, and then maybe you forget it. You kind of become immune to it. And you don't realize there's just too much stuff. So having a different set of eyes, a set of eyes that isn't attached to it, can make a huge difference. And somebody who's better at organizing than you are. Now, I'm pretty good at organizing, but I know my limits. And I've had somebody come in every now and then and help me organize. And especially, it was after my dad died, and I got all this stuff coming in the house. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do with it all? And it took a little while. It took several years to finally get through all of it, and it's all gone to its proper places, and I kept what I wanted, and the rest got thrown away or given away. But initially, there was this huge deluge in the house of just stuff. And a lot of it was stuff that I just didn't want to be thrown out. Some of it belonged to my sister, some of it belonged to my niece and nephew, some of it was just need to be given away. And for a while there, it just kind of landed here. And I needed to get some help because every time I looked at the mess, I didn't just see the mess. I didn't see all the boxes. I didn't see the stuff. It was too heavy because I was seeing, him dying. I was seeing all the memories. I was reliving a lot of memories, some good, some bad. And I just couldn't do it by myself. So I brought somebody in, and she was funny. She says, Jeanette, you know how to do this. I'm like, yeah, I do. Because I've done it for clients. I said, but I can't do this by myself. It's too heavy for me by myself. Not physically heavy, emotionally heavy to do it by myself. So she came in and was like, bam, bam, bam. I was throwing stuff away right and left. She came up with a couple newer ideas of organizing. I said, that's really great. Yes, that will work. No, that won't work. Why? Because we talked about it. Okay, cool. Love it. And there were some things she's like, you really need that? She was right. I didn't. And a good organizer will take all the stuff away when they leave because they don't want you changing your mind. It's like you made the decision's right. Next. And a lot of times we just hold on to stuff. I just had a acquaintance of mine. She got in a car accident, and the car got, what's it called? Got totaled. And it's for some reason she kept the car. I don't know how or why that happened, but she did. And there was some major pain in this car wreck that she's still suffering from. But she's holding on to the car. She's literally holding on to the pain of this. The energy around the car is horrible. It's just got really ugly energy. And because she won't let it go, she's keeping the pain within herself. Because that memory, all that memory of what is still there. And I haven't done the healing stuff with her. She hasn't really been open to it. But what is it serving her to hold on to something like this? I don't know. It's not serving her physically. It's not serving her emotionally, but she won't let go. And I think it's just holding on to a life that she used to have. But her keeping it is keeping the energy of the life that she has that she does not like. So sometimes you just got to let go of stuff, even paper. I found out something interesting the other day. So we're supposed to keep 7 years of taxes. Well, if you have more than that, they can go back and look at all of those files. So you definitely want to get rid of the ones that are not in those 7 years. And even within our finances. So the year I had the miscarriage was really tough. And towards the end of the year, I got a new bookkeeper, and she's like, oh, we have to go back and redo the whole year. You can imagine how I felt about that. Okay, fine. We went back and we did the whole year. And I had to kind of walk her through it. Some of it, and she had a lot of questions and da-da-da. Okay, fine. And by the way, they all say that you have to go back to the beginning of the year. So this was not there were some issues with her, but that's another story. But every bookkeeper I've ever, we have to start from the beginning of the year. Okay, whatever. So, as I was going through all those numbers again, all the clients, and I could feel the miscarriage happening again. I could feel like this client, like there were little time markers in the money. And now, obviously, the clients had nothing to do with my miscarriage, but there were pieces of it that got caught into the energy of it, got caught into the finances. So if you are going through something tough, get rid of those papers. Once you get past the 7 years, get rid of all that stuff, because you're going to be holding on to the pain. You don't need it. You don't need it. So when you're doing cleaning, spring cleaning, it's a couple different ways to do it. So one thing I like to do is set aside a whole day, and I will purge. And I've got kind of a shotgun house. So the shotgun house means that a bullet could go from one end to the other. But it's a long, skinny house, basically. So I'll start from the front and work my way back. By the time I get to the back, I'm kind of tired, and that's my closet. So, I get a little lazy. But then the next 6 months later, I'll start at the back. And I'll start first on the closet so I can be more cutthroat then. And then I'll work my way to the front. And if I get a little lazy in the front part and I'm tired, then it's okay, because it got hit first before. It's also my living room, so it's not as much stuff. And you've got to kind of work with your energies. Like, okay, am I ready to go? Okay, start with the hardest room. Are you kind of needing to get slowly into it? Start with the easiest room, because it gets addictive. Once you get one room done, wow, this is pretty. Next room. You can also do that with the drawers. If you're just really feeling stuck, do one drawer. Do a shelf. Start where you can and build from there. So that's helpful as far as doing that. And then what I like to do is I do all the purging, and then I'll go do the cleaning. Because for me, doing the purging and the cleaning at the same time, it's almost like they're two different sides of my brain. I can't do it. Okay, I can't do it. I don't desire to do it. And so once I get all the purging done, then the cleaning is easier. But doing them both at the same time, that doesn't work for me. But you got to find what works for you. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can hear the lawnmower, but I'm going to be just 1 second and see if I can fix it. I think that's better. All right. It's better for me anyway. All right. So now let's talk about clearing our bodies. So actually, we're going to talk about clearing the house. We'll go back. We'll get into the body in a little bit. I've got a couple fun tricks for you. So let's talk about, so once you've done the purging and now you've cleaned, so now you got to clean the energy. Huh? Okay. Have you ever walked in a room, maybe after an argument, and you can still feel the energy of the argument? You can cut the tension with a knife in that room. And you've walked in another room. Maybe it's a birthday party, and it's so full of fun and excitement. We're always picking up on energy. It's all around us, everywhere. There may be a restaurant that you love, and it's not just because of the food, but it's because of the energy there. I've got one of my favorite restaurants. The people there are so nice. They're so nice. And I go in there, and there's a couple of the waiters that know me, waitresses that know me, and, oh, Jeanette, and they give me a hug. Or at least they're always, hi. They welcome you. Other restaurants you go in, it's like, you want something to eat? Okay, I guess I have to serve you. Do you want to go there? No, you want the waiter that comes to your table or waitress that comes to your table and says, hello, welcome. They're happy that you're there. And so that's the energy. But you also feel the energy of the building. When you go in a hospital, it feels icky, doesn't it? My cat was making a noise. I don't know what he's up to. Anyway, when you go to a hospital, it just feels sick, doesn't it? Have you ever walked in a room where there's somebody who was sick for a long time and then they're gone? You can still feel the sick there, right? So this is all energy that we feel. And springtime is a great time to clear it too. So what does that mean? So I do home energy clearings. Now, I just cleared my house last night because I had there's just some stuff going on. I'm like, wow, my house is not feeling good. What's going on with it? So I started talking to it and said, okay, house, what's going on? And I listened to her. And you can do this. I'm skilled at it, and there's no reason why you can't do this. But you just have to really listen. And there's some stuff that went on in the neighborhood. Anyway, it's a long story. It doesn't matter. And I said, okay, well, let's do a clearing the energy on the house. And the house was feeling dark and sad and icky. And when I got done, the house felt bright and alive and fun. And it's all about clearing. Stuff gets stagnant, It can be a lot of things. Did you have a fight in the house? Are you feeling lonely? Are you fear? There's a lot of fear out there. Oh my gosh, there's so much fear out there. I mean, we had a lot of fear with COVID. So if you haven't cleaned your house since COVID, and I mean energetically clean, you still got some of that fear in the house. Now we got a lot of fear over this eclipse. You've got a lot of people excited about it. There's a lot of rumors about what could possibly really be happening. You've got a lot of people afraid of the next election. A lot of fear going out there. So if you're in a lot of that fear and it's radiating into your house, so we got to clear that. If there is somebody who's been sick in your house for a long time, if somebody's died in your house, all of these things, it doesn't even have to be when you were there. It could be before you bought the house. all of these things can lead to the house just feeling icky. So if you walk in your house and it's, hey, honey, I'm home, and the house feels like it welcomes you back. Hello, welcome home. I missed you. That means your house has got good energy. If you walk in your house and you just suddenly start feeling drab and icky and low, energy is not so good. I had a client, I did a home energy clearing, and mom had Alzheimer's. Well, she did have a little bit of Alzheimer's. She was sick. She was in her 80s. And we worked with the daughter. And we walked in the house. And the first thing I noticed was the energy in here is low. So I did an energy clearing. And mom was asleep while we were doing it. And when she woke up, she says, I've got my house back. She didn't know what happened. She just said, it feels like my house again. And her daughter said, what do you mean? She says, well, I just feel like I got my house back. And, they had 6 kids. So, the odds are there. There's stuff that happened, right? And there was some issues with, you got 6 kids. Somebody's going to do something, right? But there were some issues with kids that came up and needed to be cleared. Kids were adult when this happened, when they, a couple of them had moved back in for a while for difficult things, and then they moved out. Anyway, long stories, doesn't really matter. But the house was holding on to all that energy, because the house is it absorbs us and what we give to it. And so we want to give the house love too. We spend a lot of money on these things. So you want to give your house love. So that was another one. Another one I did, and she called me. She said, Jeanette, my mom's so happy now. And she says she really can feel the difference. And you can feel the difference. It's really amazing. Had another client, her house had gotten on fire. And she lived in East LA. And unfortunately, while they were waiting for the house to be redone, waiting for insurance to come through and all that stuff, there was homeless people there. There were gang people there. There were all these satanic symbols in the basement. It's a basement in LA. That's pretty wild right there, right? It's an old house. And just on the phone talking to her, I was like, you need a house clearing. She called me up for paint consult. She says, you need a house clearing. She says, oh, I had one done. And I said, well, it's not over yet. So I went there and we did the house clearing. And the next morning she sends me a text. And she says her daughter's 9 years old. Didn't know what we were doing. We were just in the house. She didn't know what was going on. And she says, Mommy, if I put my ear up to the wall, it's like the house is singing. And it is. There is this feeling of joy in a house with good energy. And part of that is how much love you're giving to it. Now, if you're going through stuff, it's hard to give the house love because you don't feel like you got a lot of love. So it's really important to give your house that love and give yourself that love. That's part of it. So I will be offering a special on home energy clearings for the spring. So please message me, email me, call me. I'm old enough. The phone works really well. Hey, Mark.
Hey there, I was listening to you talk about home energy and house cleanings and all of that kind of stuff. And of course, people are sitting there concerned about what's going on in the eclipse. And I heard you just kind of touch on that and everything. But definitely, I know people are sometimes wondering about that house energy and that spirit of the house and just how it can give you some joy, which you oftentimes talk about. And all along those lines, I was thinking about myself of the house singing and everything because you were talking about the weather there in California, and we do have this lovely substance that goes on. It doesn't impact me, but it does impact some of my friends that can add color to the house, but it can also cause and wreak havoc in people's lives because there is this lovely substance, and I know y'all have it there because it's in all flowers and plants called pollen. So we have a
Yeah,
very
but you have it so much worse there.
yeah.
Because, like, you guys, like, I don't think we have to do it with our cars. I think you guys have it much worse there.
You know, we
I've
probably have
never
a we have
experienced.
yeah, we probably have much worse because literally some friends of mine will talk about the pollen paint job because sometimes they'll come out and they'll see their car being a different color than the color it was when they
Yeah,
originally saw the car and all along those lines because the pollen has spread and all in that space. I was actually, and you get a kick out of this because I came up with this theory and I could be wrong because we were talking about, I was talking to some friends of mine and we were talking about the pollen and the nature of pollen and I had observed something because sometimes if I go outside, I will observe Mother Nature. I've told you that before on this show, and I've told other people before. And I had noticed a couple of things. I had noticed some birds that were courting, and I'm not sure that one species or one gender was liking the other gender as much as the other. It's kind of like humans because it looks like they might have been having issues because it looked like she was running away from him and all in that space. But I had also seen what I cannot remember seeing that much of. And then I came up with a theory after talking to my friends about pollen and how there might be an increase in pollen this year and everything. But I saw some robins and some other birds, and might have been some sparrows and chickadees and everything. And at least two of them, I think it was one of the robins and one of maybe the sparrows, looked like they had found a puddle. We've had a couple of rainstorms and everything. It looked like they were literally having a bird bath. So my theory is that they got pollen on them and they were literally washing the pollen off of them because if they're
that's
flying through the air, then they might be getting pollen on them, just like humans get pollen on them as well. So I'm thinking that maybe the bird kind of like flew down into the water and was like, "Hey, nothing else is going on. Nobody else is noticing. I think I'll take a quick bath and try to wash some of this junk off of me." And all along those lines. So, like I said, I don't have any proof of this. This is only a mark theory and everything, but I'm
it
just
works for me. I don't think I've ever. Well, I've had a few things coat my car, but it's not a regular occurrence, and I don't think it's ever been pollen. So, I think that's something you guys have on the East Coast, or but it's not something common here.
Yeah, I didn't think it was coming over there, but yeah, that was my new bird theory about the bird deciding that he didn't like pollen or she didn't like pollen, and she was over there because, like I said, literally this was maybe 2 or 3 days when I walked by, they were having a good old time on that little bird shower because they were just over there just flapping their wings and getting rid of things. They didn't have any soap because they're not using soap; they're just using plain old fashioned water. But they looked like they were trying to get every little bit of those tail feathers cleaned and all along those lines because they definitely looked like they were having a good old time. And it was also a little bit warmer than usual in because this would have been a couple of days ago, so it still would have been late March. So they also might have been just plainly cooling off as well because it might have been a little too hot even for those birds and everything. Because right now we're in, I think we've been having some pretty cool weather. Like I think last night it got down to like the high 30s and in that space, and it might have even been in the mid 50s in the day. But there were a couple of days last week when it was in the 70s and 80s, and we're still in springtime. So it's not quite got to the hot and humid 90s and hundreds, but it was still a little bit on the warm side, even though today is and yesterday were a little bit cooler and everything. But it's definitely interesting, and I'm sure that even our friends in Mother Earth, because I have this lovely picture that you love that's from Duke Gardens and everything, and I'm sure that sometimes they want to cool off just like humans want to cool off.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. So tell me about this energy. This can you do an energy cleaning in some place that is not yours? That's what I was going to ask you about.
Oh,
You talk about energy cleanings, and I know that if it's your house, of course you can do an energy cleaning. But what if it is somebody like you're renting, or you're at a apartment, or an Airbnb, or because I told you before, I did see that they said that there is some spikes in people trying to find Airbnbs in the part of the United States that you can see a better view of the solar eclipse and everything. So let's just say that you're going to, I think it's Kentucky and some of the other places that you have a better view of the solar eclipse, but it's not your property. So you're going to an Airbnb or a hotel. Can you do an energy cleaning in those places?
So let me back up. So first of all, I can do an energy clearing anywhere, and I can do it virtually.
Okay.
So all I need is, actually, I don't even need a phone, but it helps. I have 3 different techniques that I use, and it just depends on which one's going to be the best one for your clearing.
Right.
And we just do it over the phone, over Zoom. I can't even do it without. I have a friend that calls me regularly. She's got an Airbnb, and she doesn't know who she's letting in a lot of times. Every now and then she's like, I had an icky guest. Can you clear it? Yeah, sure, no problem. And I do. And and I've done her house several times, so I don't actually need her to be present for that, but I can do it. Yes. As far as doing a hotel room or Airbnb, I have not done that yet. So usually what I need is, I can't just go clear anywhere. I need the owner to be part of it. Now, if you are the Airbnb resident or hotel, then, technically you own that room for that amount of time. So I should be able to do something. What I have found is, when it's a lot of rooms close, like in a hotel room, I can clear your room. Now, that doesn't mean I can clear what's going on in the whole hotel. So I can clear your room. If the hotel owner called me and said, can you clear the whole hotel? I can do that.
Gotcha.
But I can only clear your room. So if there's somebody really icky in the room next to you, I can't clear that.
But Jeanette, along those same lines, because I've never totally understand other stuff about energy clearing, so there's other people watching probably going to ask the same question that I'm about to ask and everything. If you're in an apartment complex, and we know a lot of times apartments are next to each other, and as far as I know, I told you that I had that trans next door neighbor some time back. I don't know even that much about my current neighbors. I think that they're from another part of the world. It might be Asia, and they seem to be nice people and all along those lines. And the ones upstairs as well. I think I'm surrounded by people from different parts of the world. It's like living near the UN, which is kind of cool and everything. Because I even talked to a young gentleman from Indonesia. I think he's getting ready to graduate, because when I saw him last, he had on his fancy suit and he had taken class pictures from Duke University, because I think he'll graduate next month, which will be May. That May will be graduation, which is probably why he had on his suit. And I think another guy from one of the Asian countries is in the medical field. Matter of fact, I know he is, because he told me that he was going to one of our Duke as the main hospital, but sometime back they bought Regional, which is the regional hospital. So that's where he was going, to a hospital that is also a very big hospital, but a very good hospital, but it's not the one that totally automatically associated with Duke, even though they're now both Duke properties and everything, and have been for a number of years. But my quick question is, can you say you felt some ickiness? I haven't felt any ickiness, not even from my next door neighbor on the other side, who is from Eritrea and all in that space. But let's just say that there was somebody that was negative energy that was next door and everything, and you did a cleaning of this space and everything. Is it possible that there could be spillover to help them become better people if they were negative people next to me, which right now, as best I can tell, there are not. But if you cleaned one space, can it impact those nearby you, is what I'm really trying to ask.
Well, what's the classic, self-help change is when you change, other people change.
Right.
So if you clear your energy, will it spill over? Yeah, it will. And just like their energy can spill over into your place.
Right.
So the idea is to protect your space from their energy.
Right.
And there's things we can do to protect your space from their energy, because you don't want that. I had a neighbor for a while, It was a few short months. Thank God it was only a few short months. Um, and they were meth addicts, and they would be up all night working on stuff in the house, working on a motorcycle. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to sleep again. It was horrible. And the energy there was just really, really bad. And so, yeah, it would spill over, I didn't know back then, but yeah, it could spill over into my space.
Right.
And so I did have to clear it. And the thing is, when you're clearing physical energy like that, we're all connected. We're all one. So if you do clear the space, then it will overflow into them. Is that going to change them directly, immediately? It depends on what's going on with them,
Yeah.
And they may just even go, wow, you did something different. It's like, oh, you did something different with your hair. And I'm like, no, I just actually slept last night. Oh, Jeanette, you look great. Oh, you did something different with your hair. I'm like, my hair's fine. I just, I slept really good last night.
Jeanette,
Right?
don't you hate it when people do that? Because I actually had somebody yesterday, and while I took it as a compliment and everything, they were praising the haircut and the haircut that I have and everything. What they didn't realize is that they were like, "That hair looks really good. Did you just recently get a haircut?" And the haircut was literally about a week and a half or a week ago, and I'm going like, "Yeah, that was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago." So, but you're just now noticing it. So sometimes people don't notice it
You're
that
seeing
quick.
something inside of you, but they don't know how to say that. So they say, oh, you got a haircut, or oh, is that a new outfit? Oh, you got some new lipstick, whatever. I mean, you're not going to get the lipstick comment, but that's how people, because they don't get that this is really real. And so they put it in a way that oh, you look really good today. They don't know why.
Right,
They can't, they just, oh, well, you look really good today. Okay. It's because your energy is higher.
right.
And when your energy is higher, you glow, literally. That's why, they say pregnant women glow.
Mhm.
And there's so much going on when you're pregnant, that the all the energies, all the hormones, all the things that go into making that baby are actually healing mom too. I had interstitial cystitis in my 30s. What that basically is canker sores on the inside of your bladder. So it works like it, the effect is a constant bladder infection.
Right.
And what they told me back then was, if you get pregnant, it will fix it. And there are many things that, if you talk to pregnant women, they will tell you. Now, there's plenty of things that can go wrong after.
Right.
A friend who's on heart medication because of her pregnancy, but she had a hard time delivering. But there are many things that can get fixed during pregnancy because all of those things are at play.
Mhm.
And I've wondered sometimes if it wasn't so much that it would fix it, as much as I would just have a normal battered bladder at this point. So
Right.
right now I have a battered bladder without ever having the kids stepping on it all the time,
Mhm.
kicking it all the time. And so I've wondered if that's the case too. But I have seen several studies. They said, it will, all that stuff, all that energy is going on in creation will help recreate cells and stuff for mom too.
Yeah,
So
makes a lot of sense. Hey, in that same line and everything along those lines, but on a bigger front, I do, and I worked many years ago, and don't now. Well, I do now, but also virtual. There was a time that I worked physically in a physical location in the corporate America and others in that space, including working for a pharmaceutical company at one time, and all along those lines in their shipping and receiving department. But that being said, um, can a lot of times corporations are made up of all kinds of people, and some of them are very positive energy, but there are also some negative energy people that are in that corporate America as well. So I was just wondering, is it good for and particularly if the corporation head is open to it, for the corporation heads to have these
Oh,
kind of office cleanings, and do sometimes the negative people that are part of the corporations find that it has been such a positive cleaning that they feel, I won't say obligated, but maybe the urge to not want to work for those companies anymore if the cleaning is effective, if that makes any sense. Because I do know sometimes people have the yin and yang of both the negative and the positive in the corporate world, and sometimes you would love to have a Shangri-La kind of world where everybody that you're working with is of like-minded energy and all positive energy. But hey, that might be boring as well for some. But I just wanted your take on corporate cleanings, if that's something that even exists.
oh, for sure. Any building is absolutely. So here's the thing with energy. So the building has its own energy. The
Mm-hmm.
building is also absorbing energy, and people go through stuff. You've got enough people in the room. Somebody's knows somebody who died. Somebody's going through grief. Somebody's going through a divorce. Somebody's getting married. Somebody's having a baby. Do they want the baby? Do they not want the baby? Somebody's like, there's just somebody just had a fight with their spouse. Somebody's got a kid that's overact. I mean, all of these things lend to the energy of the space. Okay. And somebody's sick, somebody's got cancer, something like, you work in a big enough space, all of these things exist, and then some, right? And so what can happen is, I know here in California, and I'm you guys probably have a lot of it too, but the, if your building is built on an Indian
Mm-hmm.
Sacred ground, that can cause issues. If back there, you guys, I mean, here an old house is like 1920s. Back where you are, you guys have old houses that go to the 1800s, 1700s, some even 1600s. So all those people lived, how many generations of people lived in those houses, in buildings, and working, because you have these buildings have turned into museums and workplaces, right? So there's a lot of energies of wars, of witch hunts, of all these things that have happened, and some of it may have been absorbed by the building. So the building could actually be causing some of the angst. If the building is holding on to old energies, if the building is holding on to somebody's energies that were really toxic, then it can actually be causing arguments. So I had a client years ago. She called me in, and she wanted to paint this room in her house peach. And I told her, I don't think so. I think I pulled out my thing. And she goes, no. I want you to pick one of these colors. And she didn't want to pick from my colors. And immediately, her and her roommate started arguing all the time. Now, peach is a color that is energetically very intense. Orange is an intense color. And 6 months later, she finally came out and said that she didn't like the color. And so when it came back to me, Jeanette, you didn't want to paint it peach. I'm like, no. She's okay, you pick the color. And the roommate loved the color. Now, energetically, I picked up on the fact that this lady wasn't going to like peach. I didn't know that's what I was picking up on, but I did. And so things like that can happen in the workforce. In the building, is you could be the last person who had your office, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Was really sick for a long time, maybe they were in a very unhappy marriage, whatever, they were an angry person, toxic person, and now you're sitting in that same spot and you're getting their toxicity. I worked in a place once, I swear to you, it was a joke. Everybody who sat in this one chair got pregnant. And they're like, Jeanette, we're going to put it in your office. I said, don't you dare. I wasn't married at the time. I'm like, I'm not ready for a baby. I'm like 22 years old, 23 years old. Like, I'm not ready for a baby. But everybody who sat in this chair got pregnant. And it really became a joke. People, if you want to get pregnant, all you need is that chair. But there was the energy of that in the chair.
Wow.
And So if you clear everything, then you're starting out with a fresh slate. And it can, I'm not going to say it's going to get rid of all the toxic energy if you've got somebody who's toxic. Some people need that. But what you're doing is you're creating fresh water.
Mhm.
So if you've got toxicity and it's pouring into dirty water, dirty water, dirty water, dirty water, it's going to create more toxicity, right? But we clean that water, and now you've got somebody pouring toxicity in dirty water. It's a lot harder for it to create more toxicity, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a lot harder. As you were saying that, and you had mentioned earlier about uh, kind of converted spaces and everything. Me and two of my good friends yesterday, we went and ate at a restaurant that I've been wanting to eat at for a while. It's called It's a Southern Thing, and all along those lines. But it is literally in part of the area here in Durham, North Carolina, that is converted tobacco warehouse spaces. So I want to say It's a Southern Thing is literally in one of the old Liggett and Myers warehouse buildings, just like West Village is one of the old that might have been American Tobacco or one of the other brands that existed as well. It might have even been Reynolds, but it was one of the cigarette companies, and now those are apartment buildings. And even Measurement used to be some of the tobacco buildings as well, which is the testing company that I work for. So they are sometimes these buildings are repurposed, and maybe that energy changes when it's repurposed. Like I said, it was actually
Absolutely.
some pretty good southern food that we had. I think I had a New Orleans style dish. I think one of my friends had a omelet, but it was definitely breakfast. Matter of fact, we were teasing because we're having such good conversation that we didn't realize that we were coming up on that transition period. Because some restaurants, they transition and they want to have like a changeover period. So we were there doing the breakfast and brunch. I think we got there like around 12:30 or 1, and around 2:30 or 3, no, closer to 3:30, the manager or the owner came by and was like, y'all need to wrap it up because we got to make a changeover. We already closed the doors, and then we'll be reopening at around 5 or 6. I mean, they did it in a relatively polite way. It was us, and I think there was a group of ladies that were having a very engaging conversation as well. So we had to leave because here in the South, there are some restaurants, not a lot, but there are a few restaurants that literally have like the 2 shifts. So you have like the breakfast brunch shift, then sometimes it close out, and they make this shift of changing over the style of cooking that they're doing in the dishes, and maybe even the staff and everything along those lines, and switching to a dinner format. So I don't know if they do that quite often in the
Some
West Coast, but they do that here. So
usually it's the nicer restaurants. I mean, but most places are open. We have some restaurants that are breakfast and lunch only.
right,
Most places are open, or some places will do lunch and dinner only.
right.
Um, most, and then there's some places that are very nice where they will shut down between meals,
Yeah,
but
and that's what
most places are open all day.
And that's what this was. And for the most part, most of the restaurants are open all day. I can think of one other one. I think is an Indian restaurant. There might be a couple of others that do that, but it's not the norm. I would say it's the exception. It's not the norm, but there are a couple of them that do make that transition period. But like there in the West Coast, it is not the norm and everything. I was watching this special yesterday. Actually, it was kind of scary because it comes back to our talk about energy, because I hadn't always thought about this aspect of it and everything. But for some reason, I was flipping through channels and I saw that there was an A&E movie special, Jeanette, and it was actually on Hugh Hefner and that whole Playboy empire and everything. And it was actually talking about how a lot of those women had gone through some bad situations in their life. And it was also talking about how they were already playing a role, because it was like a reality show. I think it was like the making of the Playboy Centerfold. So one of the characters, and I didn't watch the whole movie. I saw maybe about 30 minutes of what probably is an hour and a half to 2 hour movie. But it seems like they already knew the roles that they were going into in those kind of environments. Like one was going to be the quote unquote bad girl. The other was going to be the kind of like farm girl, innocent and all in that. But they already knew the roles that they were going to get because they had already been assigned to them by the production teams and all in that space. And I never thought about that, even when I watch shows like Amazing Race and Big Brother and those shows that I used to watch, not regularly, but on occasion, that those people had already had predetermined roles, because you oftentimes will find yourself rooting for a certain character. But I hadn't thought about the fact that these were already predetermined roles and all along those.
Well, we have so many roles. I mean, we were talking before the show started about oldest child syndrome.
Right, right.
It's like I'm the eldest. Like I take care of everybody. Like
Mhm.
that's everybody. My sister was here. He said, "Oh, did she check on you?" And I'm like, "Oh no." It's my job to check on her. So there's so many ways that we have roles growing up, and then it's just easy for them to
Well,
play on,
that's yeah,
you
that's
know?
what I was teasing about, even with what I had mentioned about that same conversation. Because one of the things that my aunt sometimes talks to me about, there's two aunts, but the one of the two aunts that is still living and everything, is that apparently when I was born, as I told you, I was the first grandchild. My granddad was on mom's side was a in the rural environment, lived up in Hollister, I want to say at that time. I don't think he was living in the southern side of Virginia, but the way that they described it, he got in that truck and was rolling down to Durham, North Carolina to visit mom and to see his firstborn grandchild come into the world and all along those lines. So it seems like he was very ecstatic and excited that I was going to be the first one here. And he jumped in that truck and sped down here. The way they described it, he was definitely coming down here on a hustle because he wanted to get down here to see his firstborn grandson. And I had the pleasure of knowing him as a grandfather for a number of years, because I want to say it was when I was in my teen years is when he passed. So I got to see him throughout my growing up years and all in that space. I know not everybody is fortunate to do that, because my grandfather on my father's side, I barely knew him, because I want to say that I was maybe in a few months old when he passed and all along those lines. But definitely grandfather Vernon, not so much grandfather James, but grandfather Vernon, I got to know quite a bit and everything. But I just get tickled every time that my Aunt Julie, I think it is, and maybe even Aunt Vaughn, tells me that story of how he was so excited, because she's actually, might have been Aunt Vaughn that talks about it more, because she's the youngest aunt, because there's a 10-year gap between us. So she would have been like 10 years old as the mom's younger sister at that particular time. So she's 10 years older than I am. So she would have been seeing him as a young kid down there, excited to see me, and watching him just get in that car and speed down this way to see that firstborn grandson and everything. So that would have been his role as a patriarchal figure, for lack of a better term.
I love it. So I want to give you a couple techniques
Mm-hmm.
for clearing out your insides,
Right.
energy stuff, and then we will go and do some kendo spice so we can get some good nutrition in us.
Sounds
So,
like a plan.
um, so let me tell you. So when you're just feeling down, you're feeling stuck, and maybe you're feeling really depressed, and you don't even know why. So this is a really cool little tip that I can give you, and it will perk you up. It can. It works most of the time. But if this is what's out, you will know immediately. So we have meridians, our main meridians in our body. One goes on the front, one goes down the back. And if where they join gets stuck, then you just feel really down, and I don't know why. So this is what you do. So you take one hand and you put it on the baby soft spot up at the top, and you press a little bit. And then you take your thumb and you're going to put it in your mouth, and you're going to suck on it like it's a really thick milkshake. And there's two ridges on the top of your mouth. And you're going to take your thumb and you're going to do like this, going up and down each ridge of them, each ridge. And if this is what's out, if that's where those two meridians meet, if this is what's out, you're going to feel like a little popping sound. It's not a sound. But you'll all of a sudden feel it pop back in, and it's kind of like, wow, the lights just came on, and literally the world looks clearer. When you do this, it's like somebody took this film off your eyes, and you're like, whoa. So, and you'll feel you have a lot more energy. So that's one. Another one I want to give you. So it's Easter. How many of us got a lot of Easter candy? We had the big Easter dinner, all that stuff. So there's a spot underneath your arm. It's only on the left. Can I do this? Okay. So you're going to come around here. It's about 2 inches below your armpit. It only works on the left side. And if you're craving sugar and you can't really stop the cravings, this is going to be sore. And all you do, hold it, massage it a little bit till the sore goes away. and your sugar cravings will go away too.
Mhm.
Those are a couple things that can help you detox your body and feel better. Another day we'll go into more stuff with food and everything.
No,
We
just really quickly before we hit Kindle spices and everything, because I've had different friends with different reactions and everything. But if you are um given a prognosis that isn't all that well health wise and everything, I've always been one of those people that believes that positive mindset can help those situations and everything along those lines. But I do know that sometimes people feel that they are already defeated before the actual battle has been even fought and all along those lines. And those to me seem to be more problematic. And even though I've lost some friends that had terminal illnesses, for lack of a better term, the ones that seem to have done better seem to have had a positive attitude and lived longer than was diagnosed that they would have lived, even if they have passed on and everything. But sometimes I wonder about folks that are too quick to give up in some ways and everything. But I just wanted your take as an energy person, because sometimes people are too quick to give up, and I'm encouraging people not to give up too quickly.
So we do actually have a little bit of say in when we go,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to fight anymore. I had a friend during COVID, he got pancreatic cancer. And as soon as he told me what it was, he says, Jeanette, I don't want you working on me. And I'm like, I understand that. It's a hard fight. You don't want to do it. I accept that.
Right.
Um, Fear. I was just reading Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a chapter on fear, which was really fascinating. But one of the big things he talks about is fear and health. And it was really, look at what happened during COVID. I mean, how many people, I think everybody got COVID.
At some point or another.
I think everybody got COVID one way or another. And I got COVID before we knew what it was. So when they described what it was, I was like, well, yeah, I know how to deal with that. It didn't scare me because I'd already dealt with it. But how many people do you know? Oh my God, I'm coughing. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And like, you could just they just were like this. They were so tensed up. Oh my God, I'm going to die. I coughed, and that fear actually created more illness and more death, in my opinion, than the actual bug. And my experience with COVID on a spiritual level was that it literally came in and said, do you want to live?
Right.
And I remember laying there and like, I'm going to die. This one's going to get me. And as soon as I thought that, I was like, the hell this is getting me. I'm not going to I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, this is a bug. It's not going to get me. Now, had I had that experience after we've been told that this is a deadly bug and it will kill you, the fear becomes so much worse. And how many people succumbed to that fear? And you have a lot of people with deadly diseases. There's in the healing world, I forget the name right now, but it's out there. So this guy, you got stage 4 terminal cancer. You got 3 months to live. Yeah. And he said, no, I refuse that. And what he did is he didn't accept it. He didn't let anybody in his house who was feeling sorry for him. And all he did was watch funny stuff on TV. He only allowed positive energy into him. Cancer is, from healing's perspective, cancer is the embodiment of unexpressed emotions in your body. Yeah. This is how it manifests. Wherever the organ is, that's what it is that you're missing. So my father died of thyroid cancer. Mm-hmm. He didn't know how to stand up for himself. He didn't know how to speak his voice. He didn't let his voice be known. There was some stuff that, he was kind of the runt of the family and all this stuff. And so wherever the cancer hits, wherever any ailment hits, that's where you have stuck emotions. Mm-hmm. And those emotions can be let out and then you can heal.
Yeah.
I have worked on a few people with cancer. I did work with somebody and we were able to alleviate her cancer. I wasn't the only one working on her. She had a whole army of people working on her. I will not, but I have done some work on people with cancer, and it is possible to relieve it.
Right.
But you also have to believe that. So this is a really difficult thing to accept in the healing when you're a healer, is some people actually want to be sick. And
Right.
some people, if they're ready to go and they're just tired of fighting the fight, they're going to go.
Mhm.
And some people, they really need to, there's a payoff for them of whatever that illness is.
Right.
And until they figure out, hey, I don't want this, they're going to be sick. And all the healing in the world, if they don't want to be better, is not going to work. They
Right.
have to be willing to let go
They
of
have to
not
be.
just the pain, but of the payoff of the pain.
I had to be willing to let go, and like I just said, because Michelle Gonzalez was the young lady that I knew that passed away. I think it was about a few years ago, and all along those signs and everything. Actually, Michelle Gonzalez Green, and then she got married, so I forgot the full name with the married partner and everything. But I want to say she was diagnosed like about 2 or 3 years before she passed and everything, and she did pass about a year and a half ago and everything. But she had a very much of a joy of life, being one of those people from New York and everything along those lines. So I think that the reason that she lived longer than was expected was because she had a definite joy of life, a love of the arts, and a love of a number of other things. So I think that she probably exceeded the expectations of the doctors based on that kind of positive mindset. At least that's my belief of what I remember of her and everything. Because
And
I
how
know,
much is it? Do you actually believe the doctors?
right,
So my mother had polio when she was young. The doctor said she's never going to walk. She's never going to give birth. She's never going to drive. She's never going to, they had a long list of all the things she was never going to do. And she did every single one of them.
right,
I have a sister. She's got, when she was born, she had seizures. She had this. The doctors had a long list of things she's never going to do. She's never going to do this. She's never going to do that. Da, da, da. Guess what? She did every single one of them.
right,
So when my mom, there was problems with my birth, and the doctors, she's never going to do this, she's never going to do that. My mom said no. So the question is, do you choose to believe the doctors and what they say, or do you choose to create a different reality?
right.
My mother said, there's no way I'm spending the rest of my life in bed. There's no way. And when they told her she wasn't going to have kids, she said, yes, I am. Yes, I am going to. Yes, I am going to drive. Yes, I am going to.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't take their words as gold. I'm not saying doctors are bad, but the thing is, what you allow to believe is true will be true. If
Right.
you believe that you're going to die, like, this whole COVID thing, I saw many people on Facebook, oh my God, I'm coughing, I'm going to die. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're going to create that. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to create that. All these people right now, anti-Trumpers, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, do you realize all this freaking anger you're putting out there is actually creating that he could be our next president?
Mm-hmm.
You're actually creating what you're so afraid of. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, the energy and not to mention the amount of hate that is consuming them is physically hurting themselves. He doesn't care. He doesn't know. Not that he doesn't care because he's a bad man. He doesn't know. He doesn't care.
He
Because
doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. And not only that, but there is this notion, because I was actually talking about it in the sense of it might have been sports or something else, but a lot of people are, oh, I know what it was. We were talking about at risk youth and all along those lines on one of my own talk shows and everything. But it's because sometimes I think that we create self-fulfilling prophecy. So you tell
right,
somebody that they're already going to be at risk, then you're already putting them at risk because you're telling them
right,
that they're going to be at risk. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I think that there's a
right.
lot of those self-fulfilling prophecies that we create for ourselves and everything.
Absolutely. And I think some of these programs that we create, it's a very fine line. Okay, you've got kids. Well, so let's use autism as an example. Now, my sister was in a special needs class at school during high school. She went through regular school before that, but during high school, they put her in special needs. She went as far as she could in regular school. And the special needs classes that they had, on some levels, were really good. On some levels, it's like, if you don't, it's really all about having the right people there. So when you have a bunch of different levels of needs in a room, who gets the most attention? The one that needs the most. It's the
Right.
squeaky wheel, right? And so, and just like even in a regular classroom, you're going to have smarter kids. You're going to have kids that are having more trouble grasping the subject, and so the there's somebody that's going to get, the ones that are struggling with a subject, they get the most attention. The person who finds it easy, okay, that's great. They just, you just pass them, but they're not getting the guidance that they need. So when you're dealing with some of these special needs like autism, if you put somebody, I have a friend who's got a kid with autism. She doesn't want him in an autistic class because she doesn't want him to be dumbed down.
Right.
She wants to push it. And my mother did this with my sister. She, you know, no, we're going to learn. My mother worked really hard to keep her keeping up with the classes.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I got to high school, she didn't need to know geometry and science, and like the classes just didn't make sense for her, right? But everything up to that, she did it. She learned how to read. She learned how to do math. She learned all this stuff. And it wasn't honestly the teachers that made up the difference. It was my mother that sat there. I remember as a little kid, Little Red Schoolhouse, I don't know if you have that back there, but we had these teddy bears, different colored teddy bears. And we spent hours and hours and hours playing with these little teddy bears to teach her how to do addition, to teach her how to do some basic math. And it's just, so when we label somebody something, oldest child syndrome, okay? I know somebody who's an oldest child, and she was like, I'm not going to take care of my little sisters. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just going to take care of me. That's so far from my reality, I can't even tell you.
Right.
Because that's not how I was brought up. So when we start labeling stuff, we become that. So what we really need to do is to not label. I'm not sick. What do we say? I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm fat. I'm fat. I'm fat. Whatever it is. When we start labeling that, we become it. The words I am are so powerful. So we don't want to say I am something negative ever. We want to say I am beautiful. I am successful. I am whatever, there's a couple little videos. There's that little girl, you know what the meme I'm talking about? This little girl, she's standing on the counter and she's like, I am this. I'm like, man, her parents are so awesome teaching her that. She's like 3 years old and she's, yeah, I am great. I am great. I'm like, you're such awesome parents for her to give her that kind of power so young. So yeah, we got the power of I am is huge. So be careful what you say and how you label yourself, because you want to only label yourself with good things.
No, definitely got to label yourself with good things. And like you just said, nothing wrong even with those little teddy bears, because I was just thinking as you were mentioning the teddy bear of the one that I had as a youngster. It was a big teddy bear, floppy-eared dog. I don't even think that I named the bear, but I probably did give it a name and everything. But I do remember that it was kind of like my Linus blanket. I think I even mentioned it to my parents. Well, definitely mom, and I don't think she remembers it, but I definitely have vague memories and very good memories of that particular dog and all along those lines. But it was a big teddy bear, and I remember it had big floppy ears, and it definitely was my companion. So kind of like my version of the Linus blanket and all along those lines. Resonates with me even in my 60s, because like I said, that would have been in my teen years, having that big floppy-eared teddy bear and all in that space. But I definitely remember that teddy bear, and it definitely gave some comfort and some joy, because sometimes you just need something simple to give you comfort and joy and all along those lines. But I definitely remember that teddy bear, just like you always talk about, can do spices, can give us comfort and joy as well. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed that teddy bear and don't know what it ever became of it. It probably became rat kind of like worn and torn, and who knows, it probably disappeared at some point. But it definitely gave me comfort and joy as a kid there for a minute.
Cool. Well, let's go fill our bodies with some Kinder spices and help ourselves that way.
Let's do that.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.